Something strange is happening right now in the football world, and if you have been paying attention, you have probably noticed it too. The critics have gone quiet. The doubters are not saying much. The people who spent the last 2 years talking about everything wrong with the Cleveland Browns have suddenly run out of material. And that silence is louder than anything they could have said. Because what the Browns just did this offseason is not a minor adjustment. It is not a tweak. It is not one of those hopeful moves that looks good on paper but falls apart the moment real football starts. No, Cleveland just rolled out something that looks less like an offensive line and more like a full security system. Vault doors, steel walls, a do not disturb sign for every defensive lineman in the league. And standing right in the middle of it all, completely protected for the first time in his professional career, is Shedeur Sanders. The excuses that used to dominate every conversation about this team are gone. The weaknesses that used to get mentioned before anyone even discussed the quarterback are gone. The chaos that made every snap feel like a gamble is gone. And what replaced it is the kind of infrastructure that changes everything about how a franchise operates. This is not hope. This is not potential. This is a team that finally said enough talking and started building something nobody wants to deal with. To understand why this offseason matters so much, you have to remember what last year actually looked like inside that building. The 2024 Cleveland Browns offensive line was not just bad. It was actively working against everything the offense tried to accomplish. Pockets collapsed before plays could develop. Quarterbacks were running for their lives from the moment the ball was snapped. Timing routes became impossible because there was no timing. Deep shots disappeared because there was no time. Everything that makes a professional passing attack function was compromised by a unit that could not hold up against even average pressure, let alone the elite pass rushers on the schedule. And the numbers told the story in brutal detail. Among the highest sack rates in the league, among the lowest time-to-throw averages, among the worst pressure rates in the entire NFL. It did not matter how talented the quarterback was. It did not matter how open the receivers got downfield. None of it mattered if the play was already dead before the read could be made. Every single snap felt like a coin flip. Would the pocket hold long enough for something to develop, or would the quarterback be scrambling, throwing off platform, or taking another hit? That was the reality. That was the baseline. And that was what made the 2025 offseason so critical, because Cleveland was not building on a solid foundation. They were building from rubble. And the front office finally decided to stop pretending otherwise and start over completely. The reconstruction started with the kind of decisive action that franchises often talk about but rarely execute. Titus Howard arrived via trade to take over at right tackle. A veteran presence with the kind of experience that stabilizes an entire side of the line. The HBCU connection with Shedeur, Howard from Alabama State and Shedeur from Jackson State, added a layer of immediate chemistry that most new teammates do not have. Howard publicly expressed excitement about blocking for Shedeur the moment they met, citing his belief in the young quarterback's ability and his eagerness to protect him. That is not just a transaction. That is an investment in relationship building that pays dividends when the games get tight and the pressure gets real. Zion Johnson signed to take over at guard. A former first-round pick whose reputation is built on athletic pass protection and the ability to mirror speed rushers in a way that keeps the pocket clean. This was not a depth signing. This was a deliberate upgrade at a position that had been leaking pressure all season. A new center was brought in to anchor the interior, providing the communication hub that every offensive line needs to function as a cohesive unit. Kevin Zeitler was re-signed to add veteran stability and continuity, ensuring that the reconstruction did not come at the cost of institutional knowledge. And left tackle, the one remaining question mark, is expected to be addressed with the 6th overall pick in the draft. The Browns are not leaving anything to chance. They are not hoping a mid-round project develops quickly. They are taking the best available tackle at the top of the draft and completing the overhaul with premium talent. When you step back and look at the full picture, this is not a patch job. This is not a franchise crossing their fingers and hopping a few free agent signings mask the underlying problems. This is a systematic demolition of everything that was broken, followed by a methodical rebuild using the highest quality materials available. Every position on the line was evaluated, every weakness was identified, and every solution was executed with the same singular purpose: protect Shedeur Sanders at all costs. The architect behind this transformation deserves attention that extends far beyond the offensive line acquisitions. Todd Monken did not arrive in Cleveland by accident. He did not stumble into this job through circumstance. He is here because of a connection that spans years and multiple organizations, a pursuit that finally reached its conclusion when the Browns hired him and handed him the keys to the offense. The backstory matters because it reveals intent. When Monken was the offensive coordinator at Georgia, he recruited Shedeur Sanders. He saw something in the young quarterback that aligned with his vision for how an offense should operate. That recruitment did not result in Shedeur attending Georgia, but the interest never faded. When Monken moved to the Baltimore Ravens as their offensive coordinator, reports suggest he pushed to draft Shedeur. That effort also did not materialize. But now, finally, after years of trying to unite his scheme with Shedeur's skill set, Monken has his quarterback, and every decision he makes is filtered through the lens of maximizing what Shedeur does best. This is not a coach walking into a new situation and trying to figure out what he has. This is a coach who already knows exactly what he wants to build and finally has the resources to build it. Monken's track record speaks for itself. Explosive passing attacks, quarterback-friendly systems, aggressive play calling that stretches defenses vertically and horizontally. The offenses he has coordinated in the past produced elite statistical outputs and created the kind of rhythm that makes quarterbacks look like they are operating in slow motion while everyone else is playing at full speed. And now that system, that philosophy, that approach is being custom-built around Shedeur Sanders from the ground up. The alignment between Monken and Shedeur is not subtle. It is not something you have to read between the lines to understand. It is explicit in every public comment, every schematic decision, every personnel move. When Monken talks about Shedeur, the language changes, the energy shifts. He uses phrases that NFL coaches do not deploy casually: elite playmaker, natural ability, instinct that cannot be taught. These are not throwaway compliments designed to generate positive headlines. These are evaluations from a coach who has spent decades identifying and developing quarterback talent at the highest levels. And the consistency of the message communicates something important to everyone inside the building. The coaching staff believes in this quarterback. The scheme is being designed for this quarterback. The resources are being allocated to protect this quarterback. There is no ambiguity. There is no hedging. There is no contingency plan that involves someone else taking over if things get difficult. This is Shedeur's offense. Monken's job is to make sure it succeeds. And that clarity of purpose, that organizational alignment, is something the Browns have not had in years. Previous regimes tried to balance multiple options. Previous coaching staffs treated the quarterback position like a rotating audition. Previous front offices hedged their bets and created competition where none was necessary. This regime is different. This coaching staff is different. This front office is different. And the difference is visible in every move they have made since the draft. What does protection actually change for a quarterback? The answer seems obvious on the surface, but the layers beneath it are what transform careers. When a quarterback is constantly worried about getting hit, the entire game accelerates in ways that work against him. The clock in his head speeds up. The reads get rushed. The footwork gets compromised. The decisions get forced. And the mistakes start piling up in ways that make even talented players look ordinary. That was the reality Shedeur faced during stretches of his rookie season, not because he lacked ability, not because he could not process information quickly, but because the environment he was operating in did not allow his processing to translate into production. When you have less than 2 seconds before pressure arrives, your options shrink dramatically. The route tree compresses. The timing windows disappear. The deep shots that require time to develop become impossible. And the quarterback is left trying to manufacture something out of nothing, play after play, series after series, game after game. That kind of football is exhausting. It erodes confidence, it creates bad habits, and it masks the true talent level of the player because the circumstances are so unfavorable that even elite execution would struggle to produce results. Now consider what changes when the protection is solid. The pocket holds. The reads can be made in sequence. The timing routes arrive when the receiver hits the break. The deep shots become viable because there is actually time for them to develop. And the quarterback stops playing survival football and starts playing control football. That shift is everything. Shedeur is no longer dropping back wondering if he is about to get blindsided. He is no longer rushing throws just to avoid contact. He is no longer compromising his mechanics because the pressure is already in his face. He can stand in the pocket, go through his progressions, trust that the protection will hold, and deliver the ball to the spot where it needs to be. That is when quarterbacks start looking like the players everyone projected them to be. That is when the talent translates into production. That is when the confidence builds into dominance. The weapons surrounding Shedeur have also reached a critical mass that changes the offensive equation entirely. Jerry Jeudy was already on the roster, an elite route runner whose ability to create separation at the top of routes gives Shedeur a reliable target on every possession. The voluntary offseason work between Shedeur and Jeudy has been building the kind of timing and chemistry that produces completions in tight windows, the throws that separate good quarterbacks from special ones. But Jeudy is not operating in isolation anymore. The receiver room has been supplemented with young players who can actually get open, players who treat separation as a requirement rather than an occasional bonus. These are not route runners going through the motions. These are playmakers who force defensive coordinators to account for them on every snap. And the running back room adds another dimension that prevents defenses from selling out against the pass. When teams have to respect the run game, the coverage lightens. When the coverage lightens, the passing lanes widen. When the passing lanes widen, the quarterback's job gets easier. Everything connects. The offensive line creates time. The time allows routes to develop. The routes create separation. The separation gives the quarterback options. The options lead to completions. The completions sustain drives. The drives produce points. It is a chain reaction that starts with protection and cascades through every other element of the offense. And for the first time in his professional career, Shedeur has every link of that chain functioning at a level that supports his ability rather than undermining it. The draft capital Cleveland holds adds another layer of offensive potential that cannot be overlooked. The 6th overall pick is expected to address left tackle, completing the offensive line reconstruction with a premium talent who can protect Shedeur's blind side for the next decade. That alone would be significant. But the Browns also hold the 24th pick and the 39th pick, giving them flexibility to add weapons in ways that most franchises cannot match. The names being mentioned in connection with those selections are revealing. Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Malachi Lemon. These are not developmental projects. These are players with immediate NFL impact potential, receivers who can step into a professional offense and contribute from the first snap of the season. And the Browns are in position to add multiple players from this tier to a roster that is already building momentum. The strategic options are extensive. They can stay at 24 and take the best available receiver. They can package 39 and 24 to move up and target a specific player they covet. They can add depth across the offense and ensure that injuries do not derail the progress they have made. The flexibility is the point. Cleveland is not locked into a single path. They can react to how the draft unfolds and optimize their selections in real time. And every addition they make serves the same purpose. Give Shedeur Sanders more weapons, more options, more ways to attack defenses that are already going to struggle with the infrastructure that has been built around him. There is a pattern in college football that translates directly to the professional level, and it is worth understanding because it illuminates why the Browns' draft strategy makes sense. Ohio State wide receivers, specifically, have demonstrated a consistent trajectory that defies typical prospect evaluation. Players who enter that program as the second option frequently emerge as NFL stars who surpass the teammates who were ranked above them coming out of high school. The development system, the route running refinement, the exposure to NFL-caliber competition, all of it combines to produce receivers who are ready for the professional level in ways that their recruiting rankings did not predict. Jackson Smith-Njigba arrived at Ohio State behind other highly rated receivers and became the most polished route runner in his draft class. Chris Olave developed in the same program and became a dominant NFL weapon. The pattern repeats because the system produces a specific type of receiver, technically precise, mentally prepared, and conditioned to win at the nuances of the position that matter most at the highest level. Shedeur does not need a finished product walking in with headlines and hype. What he needs is a receiver who will develop alongside him, someone whose peak arrives at the same time his does, someone whose chemistry with him deepens over seasons rather than being forced into existence during a single training camp. That connection cannot be manufactured. It is built through repetition, through shared experience, through the gradual synchronization of timing that produces completions in windows that should not exist. And Cleveland's draft approach suggests they understand this. They are not chasing the biggest name available. They are targeting players who fit the timeline, who can grow with the quarterback, who will hit their stride when the offense is ready to compete for championships. For the longest time, every conversation about the Cleveland Browns started the same way. The offensive line is trash. No receivers, no help, no chance. It was the opening statement before any real analysis could begin, the baseline assumption that everything else had to be measured against. And there was truth in it. The problems were real. The weaknesses were visible. The structural deficiencies made it impossible to evaluate the quarterback fairly because the environment was so compromised. But that storyline is finished now, deleted, no longer applicable. Every weakness that used to dominate the conversation has been addressed. The offensive line has been reconstructed from the ground up. The receiver room has been upgraded with players who can create separation and make contested catches. The running game has been reinforced to provide balance. The coaching staff has been aligned around a singular vision. And the front office has committed resources at a level that leaves no room for ambiguity about their intentions. The excuses are gone. The caveats are gone. The qualifying statements that used to precede any discussion of Shedeur Sanders no longer apply. For the first time, he has everything a young quarterback needs to succeed at the professional level. And even the typically skeptical voices in the media have acknowledged it. The construction is legitimate. The investment is real. The situation is favorable. There is nothing left to hide behind. The only remaining variable is the player himself. And based on everything that has emerged from inside the building this offseason, that variable is looking more and more like the strength of the entire equation. Consider what opposing defensive coordinators are now facing when they prepare for Cleveland. You cannot double one receiver because there are multiple threats who will make you pay for the vacated coverage. You cannot stack the box because the receivers will cook you over the top. You cannot drop everyone into coverage because the run game will punish you between the tackles. Every traditional defensive approach carries a consequence. Every gamble has a downside. And the quarterback standing in the middle of it all has the time, the weapons, and the confidence to exploit every opening that presents itself. Shedeur is not forcing throws anymore. He is not hopping someone gets open. He is not guessing where the pressure is coming from and improvising solutions on the fly. He is reading the defense, identifying the weakness, and attacking it with precision. That is quarterbacking at a high level. That is what happens when the infrastructure around the position is built correctly. And the scary part is that this is just the beginning. The connections are still forming. The chemistry is still developing. The system is still being installed. What the Browns' offense looks like in September is not what it will look like in December. And what it looks like in December is not what it will look like the following September. The trajectory is upward. The ceiling is rising. And the foundation has been set to support sustained excellence rather than occasional flashes. This is not a team trying to survive. This is not a franchise hopping to sneak into the playoffs and steal a game. This is an organization that has decided to build something designed to overwhelm opponents at every level. The offensive line creates a fortress around the quarterback. The weapons stretch the field horizontally and vertically. The run game keeps defenses honest. The coaching staff schemes advantages before the ball is even snapped. And the quarterback has the ability to execute the vision with the kind of talent that made him the second overall pick in the first place. Cleveland is sending a message to the rest of the league. We are done being average. We are done being the team that almost figures it out. We are done making excuses and promising that next year will be different. This year is the year, and Shedeur Sanders is standing right in the center of it all. The face of the franchise, the engine that makes everything go. The reason why the conversation about the Browns is about to change permanently. Every read runs through him. Every adjustment is his to make. Every throw carries the weight of a franchise that has finally given him everything he needs to succeed. And now that the protection is there, now that the weapons are there, now that the coaching alignment is there, the only question that remains is the one that should make every defensive coordinator on the schedule nervous. Who is actually stopping this? Because when you break it all down, when you look at the protection and the weapons and the coaching and the draft capital and the organizational commitment, it becomes very difficult to identify the answer. The infrastructure is elite, the talent is ascending, the confidence is building, and the results are coming, not eventually, not hopefully, soon. This is not the Cleveland Browns team that people remember from last year. This is something new, something faster, something stronger, something smarter, and something far more dangerous than anyone outside that building is prepared for. The construction is complete. The excuses are gone. And Shedeur Sanders is about to show the entire league what happens when a franchise finally builds around its quarterback the right way. Drop your take in the comments because this conversation deserves real answers. Is this offensive line rebuild the most complete transformation you have seen a team execute in a single offseason? And when the protection holds, and the weapons connect, and the system clicks, what does that ceiling actually look like for Shedeur Sanders? Let me know what you think because the season is coming fast, and the Browns are not waiting for anyone to catch up. If you want to be here when the results start showing up on the field, you know what to do. Subscribe and stay locked in. Because Cleveland is about to be one of the most talked about teams in the league. And whether you are cheering for them or preparing to play against them, you are not going to want to look away.